Today we're reviewing the Takoon Pump 1700. Is it any good? This is gonna be my raw, unfiltered review. I'm not sponsored, I'm not a Takoon rider. If anything, I ride another brand. So this is gonna be really my honest take on this beginner foil entry-level price from Takoon. Let's get into it. The first impression is intuitivity and confidence. It's very stable, very permissive, not the lightest. I'm gonna touch on that later, but it's a beginner set. It's very intuitive in terms of, yeah, like I said, it's permissive. It's very intuitive in terms of knowing when to press and when to relieve your weight. It's not super easy to pump upwind, a bit demanding physically, because the profile is quite generous. But for flat water, it's pretty good. It's extremely easy to start, even if I'm using a 93 centimeter board. Still very, very easy, very stable, especially with this long fuse and generous stub. The counter side of that, as you can expect, is that it's not super responsive when turning, but it's not really the fault for that. It's mainly to learn and pump in flat water. You definitely feel the added weight on the mast, especially, like I said, when you pump upwind. But it's fairly easy to stay high on the mast. You also feel that the mast is a 19, like the Axis one. It's fine for a foil of this size and these speeds. It's absolutely fine, I believe, to use a thicker mast. And in terms of stiffness, you don't really feel that it's an aluminium mast until you reach low speeds, and there you feel a bit of flex. As you can see, the shape, the profile is something in between the Sirus XL from Gong and I would say like a Gem from F1. Still generous, the profile, like I said, is quite thick. You have a bit of a concave right here to improve the low end. The fuselage is not like, what's it called? It's not like put it in, right? It's put it on top. This is how technical my tutorials and reviews are. But despite that, it's still quite sturdy. And it's probably also because of the M8 screws that they decided to use. Again, not the lightest, but it's not made to be light. It's made to be sturdy and to be long-lasting for beginners. Now, to be completely transparent, one thing that I really look at when looking for beginner foils is not the beginner foil itself, because to be honest, they are almost all comparable, right? Yes, you can go and find the best one, the one with 1% more efficiency, but to be fair, to be honest, when you're a beginner especially, and when you're going at such low speeds, you don't feel the difference between a foil and another, all right, to be completely transparent. But one thing that you should look at when choosing a foil for beginners is what's the progression? Like, if I get this foil, what can I get in the future when I'm gonna get better? And what do I even want to do with pump foiling? Because if you're just pump foiling because you want to get it in flat water, like flat water long distance pumping, then you're going to maybe choose a brand that maybe allows you to have a beginner foil, and then only by changing the front wing and perhaps the stab, you can get your definitive ultimate long distance flat water pumping. If you want a set that maybe you can use for winging as well, then you should consider some wings that you can use for winging, that you like to use for winging, and then you get the same brand for pump foiling. At the same time, if you only wanna, maybe you want to get into pump foil races like sprint races or slalom races, again, you should have a look at the range of foils that the brand offers, right? So what's the progression? Now, until this point, they didn't have many foils on the range, Takoon, but now they are coming up with new foils, and the flare, they say it's quite good for pumping. I didn't have the chance to try it just yet, but I believe that this is probably the right opportunity to get into a brand that, like I said, you get a decent, accessible in terms of budget set, and then you still have a progression because you can get other foils as you improve, or maybe you're riding Takoon for winging. I don't know. I'm not gonna talk specifically too much about the board because I'm gonna make a separate video about that now that I have the possibility to try these sets. Again, it's not light. It's not light. I'm used to ketos. My set is like 5 kg. This is not 5 kg. I'm not gonna lie, but like I said, at these speeds and with this mass thickness, you don't really feel that much that is heavy, right? When you start carving and you want to accelerate fast and carve sharp, then at that point you start feeling the mass thickness and the added weight. But at this level, you don't really feel it. Again, if I have to compare it to other foils, I would say that it's even easier to start than the Sirus XL. But at the same time, the top end is not really as well as the Sirus. Probably, I'm assuming I don't have the Sirus XL here to compare it with, but it's probably because of the chord here. This one is probably a bit bigger, so a bit more stable. I do appreciate the span because it's 133, I believe, 133 exactly. And in my opinion, 133 with the aspect ratio around 10, this is 10.3, is the sweet spot. Because if you go really bigger than that, for beginners, it starts becoming really difficult to recover when you don't have a sharp fit placement at the start. So if you start with the dock start or the drop start, and you don't have a sharp fit placement, and you have a wingspan bigger than 140 really, in meters, centimeters, then you lose it and it's pretty hard to recover. This one is still quite permissive also because it's quite thin here at the tips, like the Sirus XL that I feel like I should compare it with. It's quite flat, that's why it's probably not that great to carve sharply. And like I said, if you get this foil, I think that they're coming up with a shorter fuse, so you can still maybe start with this set, which is the recommended set on the website, and then slowly you can maybe get a smaller stab, a shorter fuse, and then eventually change the front wing. Or again, you can, like I said, cross-use it for wing foiling if you're into wing foiling and stuff like that. All right. The board, again, I'm not gonna touch too much on the board, but it pairs pretty well with the set. I'm used to different shapes and different boards, but again, I'm gonna touch that on a separate video. Subscribe for that video. But yeah, that is pretty much it. I'm gonna just wait for this boat to pass, or maybe not. It's probably even slower than me, isn't it? Let's see. Boom. Yeah. I'm gonna upset the fisherman. Very intuitive, really. I'm not super efficient just yet. Oops. It likes to be pumped very, likes to be kept very flat when you pump it. If you point it up and down too much, you're really just wasting energy. So that's that. This was my review on the Takoon Pump 1700. You can subscribe for more foil reviews and for a review of this board and another board from Takoon, which is actually yet to go out. All right? I'll see you in the next one.